Well, howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. My glasses broke. My on-air glasses, as I call them. So all I have are these big, ugly, round things. But, you know, I only need them if I want to see, so no big deal. Also, if you hadn't noticed, there's something missing. The table's gone. Yeah, my office is kind of a mess. I want you to look behind me. That is my current camera setup. I've got that Canon. That's the main camera I shoot with. And then I have that, I bought this little monitor a few months ago. I've never done a video on it. This is how behind the times I am. I'm still experimenting with it and getting, all the finer points of this monitor worked out. It's been extremely busy here at Unky Joe's Playhouse. But I'll be doing a video on my video equipment that I use for filming. I want to kind of maybe change up the way I do my presentation of my video here. But now that table's out of the way, I can get the floor cleaned up. I can get my bench cleaned up. I've got some changes coming up on the wall behind me. I got some. My spouse bought me some new artwork. I've got some stuff to hang tools on. So I got to get in my head figured out how I want to organize that wall behind me, and then I'll do it. Now, this video today is basically a rehash of my Plex and Emby media server. The goal was to run Plex and Emby in the most power efficient way as I could, i.e. that Ryzen 5 1600 CPU and that Gigabyte Gaming 3 motherboard. The problem is that the parts for that Plex and Emby media server were in the Thermaltake case on the floor behind me. And I really wanted to get Unraid back up and running, so if you saw my previous video on Unraid, I show you that I put all the parts in that Thermaltake case and got it all put back together and ready to go. And the best place for that unit to stay is on the bench, because that's where I'll be doing my experiments on it. Then the problem became what to do about Plex and Emby, my media server. Now, I had a couple of choices. I could have gone back to running Plex and Emby on that Dell R720 with the NVIDIA Grid card, but the problem was that I would have to put my storage for my video, audio, and for home video and photos and that kind of thing on a separate server. So I would, I'd be having to run two servers, and not two of the most power efficient servers. While the Dell R720 is fine, the R710 is kind of a pig when it comes to power, and I prefer not to have it running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So putting it back on that Dell R720 with the Dell R710 as storage was just not a good idea. Now, the other problem I was faced, the other option I had was to put all those components, the Gigabyte AB350 Gaming 3 motherboard, the Ryzen 5 2600, and a GTX 950 video card, was to put them back into that 4U case with the drive bay, the four drive bay housing, and stick it in the rack. But I only have a 24U rack, and that sucker is full since I got the Dell R720, just because the way I have it rejiggered. So I came to an epiphany. Let's go ahead and put everything back in that 4U case. Have this server be dedicated to nothing but Plex and Emby, and maybe some ripping of video or compressing a video or whatever I need it to do. So I put all those components, the Gigabyte Gaming 3 motherboard, the Ryzen 5 1600, and the GTX 950 video card back in that 4U case. And now I was faced with the problem of having to find space in the rack for that unit. But it seems, as you will see in this video, I've been able to overcome it. But I don't know if you can hear. Every once in a while, you'll hear a sound like a click, 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 click. You hear it? It just did it. That's my Synology NAS. It's currently the DS918 Plus. It's currently sitting on the desk, and it's not going to stay here for long because it's annoying the hell out of me. I'll find a spot. Maybe I'll put it on the telco rack. But anyways, this video is about me moving stuff around again and getting it situated and rebuilding that media server for Plex and Emby. So come on along. I'm going to get started on the build process now, and I'll narrate through it. And when we get to the end of it, I'll show you how it all worked out. Today, if you remember this case, this is the 4U Behemoth. of a case that previously has been called Prometheus. Well, I've made some decisions again, some life-changing decisions, and I want to put this unit back to work in my server rack, which means I've got to move some stuff around in the rack. What I'm going to do with this machine today is I'm going to do this. This is my old, pardon the audio quality on here, this is my old Ryzen 5 1600 CPU. This is the Gigabyte GA-AB 350 Gaming 3 motherboard. So I'm going to assemble this unit back together. This is going to be our Plex Emby media server. It's also going to be our storage server for our home audio video. I've moved it back and forth between the Dells, and I've just found that this unit is probably going to serve my needs better. The reason I didn't use this before, or I stopped using this, is because I ran out of rack space. But now I have that issue resolved, so I have room to put this back in the rack, and that's where I would prefer it be. But this is going to be our Plex Emby. This is going to be our home media server, our NAS for our home media. And as my media needs grow, it's got a 4-bay drive bay in the front, removable hard drives. We're also going to put the boot drive is going to be this Samsung Evo 250 gig SSD drive. The other thing we're going to put into this unit is this NVIDIA video card that I have. And this is a Gigabyte. This is the one I did the fan replacement mod on. I could not get the fans that actually are made for this, so I just kind of modified it with a motherboard connector here. But this is the GTX 950 2 gig card, so this should be fine for Plex and Emby. It can only do 2 simultaneous streams, so they claim, because the NVIDIA cards are locked down. But this will allow me to do, H.264, H.265. And then later, if I need a more powerful video card in this unit, I can, of course, have one installed later. But that's what I'm going to use for now. So, alright, so it's built, it's powered up. We're currently installing Windows Server 2019 on here because that is the OS it's going to run. And once we get the server installed, then I'll take you over to the bench and we'll get it configured. But I just want you to see the build as it was. And we've got the video card in there. We've got the hard drive bay all connected up right here. We've got our SSD in there. It's just kind of laying in there for now. But I'm toying with the idea of putting an M2 drive into here. But for right now, the serial ATA drive, or the SSD drive is tucked back in here. So the physical move of the drives is complete, so I just want to go into Disk Manager just to make sure it's seeing all 4 of the volumes there, and you see all 4 of them, DB1 through 4, are formatted with REFS. So now what we want to do is get Drive Bender back up and running. Now I've already pre-installed Drive Bender on here, and then I moved the drives over physically. So I have 2 4 terabytes, a 3 terabyte, and a 2 terabyte drive in there. So now what we're going to do is just bring up Drive Bender. And Drive Bender has detected 1 or more pools that can be restored. As I've said before, this is one of the major reasons I use Drive Bender. It's easy, it's simple. Do I want to do a pool restore? I'm going to tell it yes. There were 4 drives found and restored. And there's all my data. Now, that being said, it will take time for Drive Bender to get the statistical information back on here. And we may or may not have the volume go offline while it's doing that. So what I like to do is anytime I've imported a Drive Bender volume, I just like to let it sit there for about half an hour and do its thing. So now that I've imported the volume, I'm going to go ahead and close the management interface. It's still running down here in this tab down here in the running tasks. And if I come up here now, I should see a drive P, and then there are my shares, media, private, and Steam games. So here's Prometheus all assembled and ready to go back into the rack. But you can see Prometheus is a large case. It's 4U. Problem is, if we come over and look at the rack, we don't have any space to put it. So let's go take a look, see how we're going to overcome this. So here's the state of the rack. It's very clean, y'all. I know it looks like spaghetti wires up front, but they're all organized and color-coded, and I know where everything goes. The problem is that we are out of space, as you can see. I need a 4U spot in order to put Prometheus in. The problem is I don't have one, because I have that IBM X3650, which is a 2U. I have a R710 on top of that, which is another 2U. Then another 710, which is a 2U. And then an R720 2U. And then above that, I have the 2U case that I built the pfSense firewall in. Well, I've got plans for pfSense firewall. It's not going to stay in that case. So if I were to take that 2U case out and then move the Synology FS 1018 up to where the other Synology is, I would have room for the 4U case. But then the question becomes, where do I put the DS918? I prefer to keep it on the rack. However, seeing as it doesn't have any 10 gig connections, I could in theory move the DS918 out to the work table and plug it in there and use it as also as a backdrop for future videos. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the 2U. I'm going to remove the FS 1018, put it up where the DS918 is next to the Unify security gateway, and that should give me the space I'm going to need in order to mount that unit on the rack, and then it'll just sit on top of the Dell of the R720 right down there with the amber light. So let's see if I can't get that taken care of. Alright, so we got the disk station moved. It's out of the rack and it's sitting here on my desk, as you can see. So that went well, and we'll go over to the rack next and see how I've got that configured. So we've been able to get everything put onto the rack. As you can see, we've got the FS 1018 with the little HP thin client sitting on top of it now, where the DS918 used to be, next to our Unify security gateway. And there we go, we got Prometheus installed into the rack on top of my other Dell and IBM servers, so it all came out well. One little problem with that Synology box, it's a little noisy sitting on my desk, but keep in mind that I do have a telco rack to the right over here of this main rack, so worst case scenario I can always put it on there, but we'll see. I'll just probably get used to the noise. So there you go, YouTube. Problem solved. Well, for everything except for that DS918 Plus. I just didn't realize that the hard drives made that much noise when they were reading and writing data. So I'll find a spot on the telco rack or on the work table behind me, because this frankly is just so distracting to me that it's not workable. It is kind of nice having it sitting here and being able to watch the flashing lights, but I've got a better home for it. I'm sure I can find a better home for it, I should say. Now the other question is, why Run Mbn Plex? Well, you know, I do reviews on Mbn Plex. Now, my spouse prefers Emby, and for one simple reason, and that's because the stats, the bios that he gets when he's looking up videos on our media center. I am moving back toward the direction of liking Plex a little bit more. They've evidently listened and made some serious changes to their interface these last couple of iterations. And I've found them to my liking now that I've gotten used to it. So, and you know, Plex and Emby here at Unky Joe's Playhouse are always a work in progress. These servers are always being moved around. But I think I finally set on given that Ryzen 5 1600 a task to do, and it does it very well. Now that thing only consumes about 70 watts of power at idle, and when we're streaming up a couple of movies for it, I think it went up as high as 90 or 95 watts. Now that's with that Ryzen 5 processor in there, 16 gig of RAM. It's got the GTX 950 video card in there, and it's got 4 spinning Rust hard drives and an SSD. The SSD is the boot drive. It's running Windows Server 2019. So it's very power efficient, and we put that Ryzen to good use, and that allows me to kind of decommission my Dell R710s, which are a little more power hungry than the Ryzen is, to do other tasks and only have them on as need be. So it's a good fit for the rack. That's where it's going to stay for the time being. It still allows me to run Plex and Emby and to do reviews on it as they upgrade the features in Plex and Emby. And of course we'll be doing more videos in Plex and Emby. You know me, I can't leave well enough alone. So we hope you found this video entertaining and informative as always. Please give us a thumbs up on this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave your comments down in the comments section. And if you're so inclined, we take PayPal and we take Patreon for donations. Or if you want to send us a donation or send us an item you might find you might think that I find useful, if I could spit that out, let me know ahead of time and I'll give you an address to ship it to. As a matter of fact, we had an item sent to us by John's Touchpad. So if you hang on a second, I'll go get that item right now. So if you don't know who John's Touchpad is, he's been a subscriber of mine since, well, I began this channel. And John has fixed us up with these little power meters that are back here on the wall so we can measure the power draw. He's also sent us a UPS shutdown card and the software to set that up. And then he let me know, he said, "Hey Joe, I want to send this to you." So I made a comment before that I couldn't get a decibel meter reading because I didn't have a sound level meter. So John was kind enough to send one of these off to us. So if I were to turn on right now, let's see, my ambient noise level. All right, and let me hold it up to the Synology DS918. Hold on. Right there, 52.6. So, yeah, thanks, John, for sending this to us. We're going to need a lot of use out of this. I'm going to start using this to give you an idea of the sound levels on my rack when it's running. It's about 15 feet away from me. But as you saw on my ambient noise level, I think it was, what, 45? Yeah, sitting here quietly, it's about 40. So, but this will come in handy. So, John, thanks again for sending this to us. I appreciate it. And don't forget, come back and see us again, folks. And that we will see all of you on the other side.